All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this amazing interview with Debe Turnbull. And we are in August of 2020, and I'm honored to have you here and to hear lots of things about how you got into palmistry and how you meet with your clients and what you've learned and just a whole bunch of things. So you are in Columbus, Ohio, in the United States. And how long have you been reading hands?
I have been reading hands since I was in high school. Actually, no, that's not true. I started in astrology in high school. And it wasn't until my early 20s, which was a couple of years ago, that, I went to Venice Beach. For those who don't know Venice Beach, it has this boardwalk and there are people, artists and psychics around doing their little things, and I would go and I would get readings, and because I thought it was so fun. And reader after reader after reader kept saying that I had healing hands and that I needed to do something with my hands. So I said, well, let's look at palmistry. So I started reading about palmistry, and that was it. It was like, oh my God, yes, this is it. Because it's so much more intimate, and so it was so hands-on, this was part of the fun, that I knew that that was going to be the medium for me. So so mid-20s I started doing readings, and that's when I still lived in California.
Oh yes.
Right. And then I came to Columbus for 6 months, and then about 26 years ago now. So
wow,
life happens.
You've been in Columbus for 26 years?
26 years. So when I've come out to study with you, I've come out from Columbus to California to study with you. So, and loved every minute of
it. I know, that was awesome. Twice. You came out twice.
I know.
So wow, that is a long time. Did you start, so you started with books. You read books and you would just start practicing what you were learning, and must have been having great results.
Yeah, I always kept in mind the astrology in the back of my head. So I might ask a person what their birth date was, and I kind of, how much I like to weave things together. So I like taking different tools. But yeah, the hand started really being the focus, and I loved the energy exchange with people when I did that, and I loved showing everyone how amazing they are. It was so much different to me than some of the other things. So yeah, I just read, studied, practiced, moved out to Columbus, found you, came back to California to learn more. And that's when it really went crazy. After taking the courses with you and learning about the fingerprints, which I wasn't I didn't know as much about those from reading the books. And finding definitions for certain things in the hands that resonated with me better. I mean, I would read books that had conflicting information, and it was like, But then when I studied with you, it fit. It's like, okay, this resonates with me. This is what I'm seeing. And then knowing the stuff about the fingerprints was everything. It unlocked those last keys that I needed to really want to do this on a more professional level. Because life purpose, right? Foundation. Who wouldn't want to know their life purpose? So that's when it got from really interesting and fun to a real passion for me to follow that.
So. Yeah, so that time you came out to Irvine, it was the first time you came out, I think it was 2007.
That sounds great.
2007. Okay, so then you started introducing fingerprints. Now, in Columbus, Ohio, some people who would be watching this would think, wow, do people get their hands read in Columbus, Ohio? Did you find resistance, or how did you find people said yes to you?
Well, what's interesting is in California, I didn't feel the pull to go pro as quickly. Maybe because there were so many other people around that had some of that knowledge, or people I could refer people to. Like yourself. In Columbus, all of a sudden, I was sort of like a big fish in a little pond. There weren't any hand analysts in Columbus. There were a couple palm readers that had a different technique, but no one who had really studied hands. So I started getting all these requests to do this, and people in the community that work with divination are like, there's nobody like you here. We need this. And that's when I officially went pro and started doing the readings at brick and mortar stores and doing them more with intention, and started teaching classes and started, doing all that. I opened a business called Enchanted Elements with another diviner, and did that for a few years before we sort of went our own ways. But yeah, no, people in Columbus are just as hungry for this kind of knowledge as they are anywhere else in the world. I'm just lucky enough to be someone who has knowledge that a lot of people here don't have. And those people that just studied books like I started, they're starting to find me here because they want to take that to the next level. So that's really fun for me too, doing some teaching. So.
Great. So we're in the middle of a pandemic. And so you taught classes live, you had your shop, you don't have your shop anymore, which you closed earlier or before this year. So now you offer readings online, and because before wasn't 100% of your work, people would love to come visit you, of course, or you would meet them in, like you said, brick and mortar locations. So how's it going with online readings?
Yeah, that was such a game changer for me, because I stayed pretty busy just doing the person-to-person readings through word of mouth. I enjoyed that so much anyway. And I did a lot of parties. Parties were a big thing for me. Usually a small group of women, typically, and I would go to their house and do that. So it was all in person. And I had said years ago, yeah, one of these days I'm gonna set it up online. So if somebody in California or somebody in another state wanted a reading, I could do it, because there would be people that would ask for that. But I was just always too busy to do it. Well, careful what you wish for. I wish I had time to do online readings. So the universe provided me with time to get that figured out. So yes, I've really only been doing it a little over a month and a half now. And I appreciate, I called you a couple times for some tips, which thank you so much for so kind. But it's been great. I haven't done a lot of marketing yet, just because I've had people that have just like, let me know when you're ready to do readings. So that's been great fun. And I found, to my surprise, I'm really not losing anything in the online readings. I was worried when we transitioned to that, where I didn't have the person and their energy literally in my hands, that it would feel less. And that isn't the case at all. I think the connection is just as strong. Sometimes you can share things with your screen even better than pointing it out live. So there have been some real pros to this. And now I can read anybody anywhere, which is,
I know,
wonderful.
Isn't it great? Around the world, global. It's awesome.
It really is. It's a game changer. And I'm just starting to realize that, as a couple people have reached out that don't live anywhere around here. It's like, I can do that now.
Yeah. All right, good. Fantastic. So when you first started back in your 20s, do you remember what really drew you in? What really drew you? Was it, people's response? You of course had some astrology, as do I, and it's a real nice segue into reading hands. But do you remember, did somebody say something to you, or did you get a feeling, or did you feel like I'm home, or what really pulled you in?
It was almost immediate. As soon as I did a little research, I mean, at first you're like, okay, wait, what does that mean? And you're in your clinical head. But once you know enough to sort of fall into the hands that you're reading a little bit, that was just magic for me. And I could feel the energy, the exchange going back and forth. And it had me right away. I'm like, I'm meant to do this. And this was before I studied with you, before I knew my life purpose. I knew I was meant to do this, because there were lots of things I was passionate about, but there was just, it just drew me in, and I was hooked almost as soon as I started really reading people's hands. And I loved what they got out of it. and how I could help them feel really good about who they were.
Yeah.
You know, it's not all the, oh no, I don't want to know when I'm going to die. It's like, no. You don't get this at all. That's not how this works. So,
how do you differentiate palmistry from hand reading? Or hand analysis?
For me, when we're doing some things with other professionals, or I'm listening to some other hand analysts, there are some definite differences. With palmistry, for me, there's a little more woo involved. I let the woo go in a reading. So with hand analysis, it can be very scientific, and you can follow a certain formula that will get you information, and I use those tools. But if my woo pulls me, I let it pull me. So sometimes there's information that I don't know why I need to go in that direction. It wouldn't necessarily be the formula that I would use for hand analysis, but if I feel the pull, I'm gonna follow that. It's like, what do they need to know in this reading today, at this moment? And so I open that up to the universe. Sometimes I can run into some more predictive stuff, which in hand analysis, we are careful with that, you know? One of the ways that I work around that a little bit, if I see a path someone's on, I'll say, look, this is the path I see you on now. We all have free will. So I can't say this is what's going to happen. This is just what I see if you stay on this path, right? So there's always a caveat. So for me, that's the difference, getting a little bit away from the scientific part, which is amazing, but letting the universe fill in a little bit.
Your intuition. And today you have a beautiful whirl in your moon. You're right. It's your right moon? Your left moon. Your left moon. Yeah. So the moon is all about intuition and dreams and following your hunches and going into the subconscious. And so your world's very happy with you when you allow you call it woo, but I would say it's the intuition, or like you said, the universe it's and the hands are speaking to you and you're responding. So beautiful. So you have a day job.
I do.
And so how do you put time on your calendar for reading hands? Like, do you have a designated day of availability or evenings, or how do you structure when you do readings? And
you know, that's another thing that's changed a little bit, because with my day job, I now have days that I work remotely. So I have a little more flexibility in my schedule than I used to. Before, I had very specific evenings, and Saturdays is when I would work. Saturdays, occasionally on a Sunday for like a party or something, but usually for a little work-life balance, I would have Sunday off. It's like, okay, that's a day with none of my jobs.
Yeah.
But during the week, I might do 2 or 3 nights a week, do readings, and then usually on Saturday, I'd try to get some people in. But now, if somebody really needs a daytime reading, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go off the day job for about an hour and a half and go do this, and then segue. So in a lot of ways, as terrible as this pandemic has been, it has brought opportunities that I never thought I would have this year. So it's been blessings along with some of the not so good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Let's see. So do you do the same amount of time for every reading, or do you do some shorter readings sometimes, or do you just always do a 60-minute or 90-minute?
Yeah, that's a good question. It really varies by the client and what they're looking for. I have worked in, for instance, we used to do once a month a little wine and psychic event at a local little place, and those would be little mini readings. So little 15-minute taste readings, just a little something. And in those, I would either ask them if there was an area that they wanted me to focus on, and if they didn't, I would just writing for the fingerprints. Let me tell you your life. If I only have 15 minutes, I want you to know your life purpose. So, but a lot of times that just brought me more clients. So when you do the mini readings, talk about leaving them wanting more.
Yeah,
that's just the tip of the iceberg. So often something might start as a mini reading, but then typically I do an hour reading, Sometimes that extends to 90 minutes or a sequence of readings where they may do it in chunks after that. Some only want 30 minutes. So, because that's all their brain wants to process at a time. I totally respect that. So we pick chunks of areas that we want to look into. It's like, okay, there's all of this that you want to still talk about, but we can't do that in 30 minutes. So let's focus on this, and then we'll make another appointment to dive into this and give it the attention it deserves, rather than me trying to talk as fast as I possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not going to get it all. So I don't want to overload them. I want them to sit with the information a little bit. So
Yeah. Good. Good. Do you mind me asking what you charge for an hour long reading?
not at all. Right now it's $100 an hour for an online reading.
Great. That's a nice price.
Yeah, it's absolutely, worth that. There's a little more work. Sometimes it goes into an online reading. I used to charge 80 sometimes if they would come to me, and it's very convenient. But now with the recording, and I would look at the prints ahead of time when they send them, there's a little more work involved. So I think 100 is a real bargain
It really is.
for an hour, where it's not like I'm just seeing the hands for that hour for the first time.
Right.
So I can come a little more prepared, so they really get their money's worth for that hour, and I get as much good information to them as I can. So yeah, that's what I charge right now.
Oh, they're getting their money's worth. Definitely. Yeah. And I can see why. So a lot of word of mouth. It sounds like somebody's referring somebody else and recommending somebody else. And so that's great. When you did, so it was pretty easy to increase your fee from $80 to $100. Did you ever charge below $80?
I had a couple of frequent flyers, as I call them. I had a short list of friends and family sort of people that it's like, oh, these are clients where they're getting metaphysical counseling on a regular basis. So sometimes I would, give them a little cut for that.
Yeah. I was thinking more of from a professional fee. Of course, we're all going to have our friends and people that we give special fee to. I was just thinking about increasing. Do you think now about increasing your fee, or do you feel good with 100? Do you see yourself increasing your fee?
I can definitely see me increasing my fee as I get really proficient at this, and I'm thinking about some other things I might be able to offer into it, which may increase the price a little bit. I'm kind of waiting to, this just started for me, so I'm sort of feeling out, all right, if I add this element to it, whether that would be something in writing or some other things that would go with the reading that would add to the value, I would definitely do that.
Okay.
Also, if I do something like a couples reading, I might go with a different amount there, because we've got two completely different energies, two completely different hands. So I would probably revisit that pay scale, because it's a lot more stuff going on.
Yeah.
So.
Good. Okay.
And when I say friends and family for my frequent flyers, sometimes it feels like when you have a client that you see on a regular basis, they sort of become your metaphysical family a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I might give them a little bit. Or if they've referred me a million people and they're like, I need this tune-up, I'm like, oh girl, please. We'll work something out, because you need this. So.
Good. Okay. So let's see, you mentioned passionate before. So what is your life purpose and what's your life lesson? Actually, your fingerprint chart.
Yes. So I have a whirl on my left Jupiter. So that's live your passion. And I have the whirl on the moon. So spiritual teacher. And then I have a total of 9 loops on my other fingers. So 1 whirl, 9 loops. So we've got that major love life purpose in that too. So the passionate spiritual teacher with heart, I think, is how you might put my life purpose.
And the composite whirl on your left thumb.
Yes, I do have the composite whirl on my left thumb.
Yeah, so 8 loops, but the composite.
Yeah, I had read that as a loop for so long that I'm still getting used to the fact that, wait, that's not a loop, it's a composite whirl. So I need to add into there to help my people overcome obstacles, which is what I do a lot with my compound whirl people. It's like, what do we need to overcome with that?
Yes. So the passionate. Now, was your business name is the Passionate Palmist?
The
Did
passion.
you already called it passionate before you knew your life purpose was
Yes.
passion? I love when that happens. That's
Yeah.
great.
I've been the passionate fill in the blank pretty much all my life. So, you know, as I mentioned, one of the other things I do is I'm an entertainer, and I'm flamboyant and loud, and so I wear my passions on my sleeve, so to speak.
Nice. Yeah. And I know our listeners are not surprised. So your life lesson. So life lesson of emotional authenticity and vulnerability. And thank you for being vulnerable and being with me today here on the World Wide Web. So how has that lovely lesson of emotional vulnerability and developing those skills benefited you? How has it served you?
You know, I thought a lot about this, and because, you know, and what's great about this is when we dive into someone's life lesson, I mean, that's always going to be the squirmy thing. And what is your life lesson might not seem like any big deal to me, but, you know, my life lesson is the worst ever, you know. So you're not really meant to love your life lesson, but you can love what it produces. So with my personality being so loud and flamboyant and in your face, having that lesson helps me sit back a little bit and listen and really hear the other person. And maybe because I don't want to be vulnerable, it actually gets me out of my own way a little bit so that I can really focus on my client, which might sound weird, but a lot of us can be, you know, I have a passionate heartline too. So me. So my vulnerability gives me the empathy and the ability to sit back and let them work through things in a reading, and also me. I mean, I've had to sit with my feelings, which I didn't want to do. Another great opportunity with this pandemic. I went into freak out mode. I did not know how to be still and allow myself to really think about emotional things. Too busy. But that's what makes me better at being the spiritual, passionate teacher. Without the vulnerability, I can't access that extra place. I got to go there to get where I want to go. It's like you have to go through it. So do I always love it? No. You know, they call it the school of something because you never really graduate, right?
Yeah.
So,
So feeling those
kind of answers that.
Yeah. So feeling the feelings, I was just having a conversation with the gal I did a reading for yesterday. And when you or I'm not on the path of love, but I have two hermit heart lines, two earth heart lines. And so I'm not a big wanting to feel either. But I know because I do feel more and I have that list of feeling words that I look at often. And I do have two shadow Persephones. And so I found that as I can access my feelings and allow myself to feel, then I have a lot more compassion for other people and I can help them even label what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And so I think right when I met you too, I was taking the Emotional Freedom Techniques program with Robin Duncan.
Yes.
And we had to tune into our feelings. Yeah, and I tuned in. I didn't sign up for this class. I didn't sign in up to talk about my feelings. And she said, "Well, you did now. God has a plan for you." She said, and I'm so grateful. It's just like it's been just amazing. But I feel for people on the path of love because when I do the readings, they're just like, no, don't make me go there. Don't make me go there, please. So I walk gingerly around that.
And it's good for me because of course I run into the same thing, and I was like, I have so much empathy for how you're feeling right now because we all feel that way about our lessons. So being a little vulnerable, showing a little bit of vulnerability to other people helps them be more real with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did discover that along the way. The more real I get, the more I allow myself to be vulnerable and really be in my feelings instead of just stuffing them all away. The more real everyone else is too, the more genuine the relationships. You know, you can't have a real authentic relationship if you are not ready to bring your authentic self to the table.
Right. Right.
Like it or not.
Yeah.
Depends on how bad you want it.
Yeah. So in that, I guess that's sort of advice for other people on the path of love. But would you, like, if you could pinpoint like a really a pivotal time where you learned as a result of having, you almost like maybe dropped to your knees with something that you had to feel and it came out. But would you have any advice for others on the path of love? Because it's rather popular. It's a rather popular life path.
Yeah, and I might go a little bit in a different direction with that, because what I find a lot when I have my people that are love focused, so often they think that they're not meeting the right litmus tests in life. Like, you know, they should be going after a certain kind of a career for the money, or they should be going after the certain kind of relationship for that certain level of stability and perfect whatever. And I'm like, you're in this school of love. It's about the relationship. It's about the connection. The other stuff is the periphery. And you can get all that stuff, but what really matters to you is the connection. So that's the thing you pursue, that amazing connection, because that's the juiciest thing you feel. So rather than thinking that you should not give that the weight it deserves, that you should be running around making this other thing your priority, nothing should be the priority over the connection. The connection is all. I mean, that's where it really starts. So if you're trying to put that away in search of other things, you're never going to feel as fulfilled as if you let yourself go with that pull to make those connections, to have those relationships, because that's where you're going to find your bliss, not in how much money you make.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is really, I like how you turn that about what people on the path of love would do. And that is true. There's an avoidance to feeling when we go to work. So I love that too. And that tells me too, that you made a big commitment in your relationship and benefited in that way. So that's beautiful. Yeah. And especially now with so much isolation and so much distance, socially distance, physical distance, people have come to so much more appreciation. And I've even read that there's broken heart syndrome, where people feel very sad and they're actually having not heart attacks, but they're not real heart attacks, pseudo heart attacks. And there's nothing really wrong. There's nothing wrong with their hearts. And so now is another opportunity to really be with a person and be present. I know whenever I get to see somebody on a walk, I spend a lot more time very present, very focused with them.
You really appreciate it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So what's been the most challenging for you being in your business as a passionate spiritual teacher, passionate palmist? What's been most challenging in your business?
For me, the most challenging thing has been life-work balance. I would love to spend more and more and more time doing this. There are some practical considerations that keep me from following my passions as much as I would like. Of course, another issue I have is I have more than one passion. So it's fitting them all into my life. So if it's a challenge, it's how do I get the right balance so that I'm not burn out too much in one area or another area. But to make sure I do make time for this, because I am so passionate about it. And I was thrilled to get this finally online, because what a hole that was leaving in my life. Yeah. I mean, it's part of my life purpose to do the work. And so to have myself cut off from people was horrible. I mean, I panicked. So I'm an Uber extrovert. So, you know, this whole thing has been kind of mind blowing for me. But
so
sorry.
Yeah. How did you, so you had a low time, you know, a lot of us have, but you had a really like Uber extrovert. It seems like I'm an extrovert, but I'm happy being introverted. And so I've definitely experienced some very challenging feelings, but how did you work through having to kind of stay home?
Yeah, it was if you ask my wife, she'll have some words about that those first couple of weeks when I was in full panic. And it was because of my particular life lesson. I mean, I was so busy. I didn't have to stop and look at some of the things that weren't going well in my life. Too busy for that, you know. Look at all this great stuff I've got going on. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, you know. And I needed to come to grips with a few things, and I just didn't want it, right? So the thing that came with the slowdown, it's like, okay, so now my 3 jobs, a couple other things, like I'm on the board of some not-for-profits, all of those passions, most of them just stopped in their tracks. So then I had to sit, I had to be still. I had no idea how to be still. So I had to learn how to be still, and it was not easy. And I had to learn to look at some things I didn't like and revamp my whole, I mean, talk about change in perception of things, where in my world, a lot of what I did, the superficial was very important, right? You're an entertainer, you're the look, you're the this, that. Everything was on that image. All of a sudden, that didn't matter. That was horrifying. If I wasn't going to be Debe, who was I going to be, right? I was like, I was losing myself.
Yeah.
So I had to refine myself, and that would not have happened had everything not stopped. And I needed to go there, but I had avoided going there for a super long time. So this is great. I'm definitely working through some of my lesson, finding the blessing in the pain as we work through some of that. Hidden gifts, I'll call that often in a reading. When something has been really, really hard, but something good comes out of it. It's a hidden gift. So, yeah.
So good. So you had an opportunity to create a more intimate relationship with yourself.
Absolutely.
You had to go there.
Yeah. It was like, what's really important? What would be really important? And it was not what I thought.
Yeah.
I'm no spring chicken. So it's never too late for major epiphanies.
So on the path of love, I like to give assignments. You know, one is and if anybody's listening to this, I'll be happy to send it to you. The list of love words, feeling words, the pain feeling words and the good feeling words. Also free form writing, where you write what you're feeling, but it's not a journal. You throw it away and you just scribble it, you write it so that the feelings come out. Do you have a tool that you would recommend to people on the path of love to go there, to get in with those feelings so that they can see the light of day and be transmuted?
You know, I do, depending on what else I'm seeing in the hand. It's like, what I would like the writing, like you did, or some sort of a creative endeavor, definitely. If it's somebody that's you know, got an arch pattern or something, I might put some outdoors into that. Go out and do this thing to help with your connection. So I sort of tailor it. There's some people that you know, the writing and something like that wouldn't resonate at all, but maybe going out and doing something while they walk their dog in the mountains, see, that would really resonate with them. So I try to tailor it.
Good.
I try to tailor the homework.
Yeah, nice. Good.
To make it a little less onerous. Give them something that they might actually want to do rather than.
Okay.
That's a good
idea. I just learned something from you. Very good. Thank you. So what is your secret for balancing then? Because now you're starting to ramp up. Some, 3 nights a week of doing readings and maybe one on a Saturday. Plus you have your day job, and you have your wife, and you have, other things you need to do.
Yeah.
How do you know?
It's funny now, because now I don't know how I did it all before things slowed down. I really don't. I was like, how did I do all of it?
Yeah.
Because I'm still just as busy, right? It's just a little bit different. Now, the quiet time is actually something that I require, which I did not require before.
Yeah.
So I'm still recalibrating. Now that the readings are revving up, I'm like, all right, how many nights? Maybe I don't want to do 3 nights a week. Maybe I want to do 2 nights a week. Maybe I want to take a whole weekend off sometimes. I worked every Saturday. I mean, I was a workhorse. I'm saying no to some things. And I used to try to fill every nook and cranny of my time. So this is actually something I'm working on right now. Before, as long as I was running, I didn't care. So if I had 1 night off or 2 nights off a week, that's fine. I don't think I would be as fine now with that.
Yeah,
So,
that's good. As I recall, you have the busy, the gotta marking in your hand too.
Yeah.
And so responsibility, we learn responsibility at a very young age, and we become very attached to that busyness, and we identify with that busyness.
Sure.
And so I think it's really healthy for you. And choice, you know, that left Jupiter is about, you know, passion, but also making sure that you are making your choices for you.
Yeah. So now it's like, okay, which thing is most important? Okay, you only have so much energy. So you need to, and you know, and I'm really enjoying my home life more because I've learned how to be still. So that's been a big bonus too. So I certainly don't want to give that up. So.
All right. So what are your top 3 tips that you would give to hand analysts in business? Top 3 tips for hand analysts in business.
Okay. So one of the ones, and I know we've talked about this, that is rarely talked about. And I think it's so vital because I've seen how it can turn a client away if this doesn't happen. And that's making assumptions. We have a bad habit, as you know, we all do. We're a product of our environment and our own, you know, people that we're used to being around. And often we will assume things about someone, for instance, that they're with someone from the opposite sex, right? So assumptions need to go away in a reading. So my number 1 piece of advice is to try not to assume. And people have asked me, well, how do you do that without, you know, are you straight? Are you gay? Which sounds so abrasive. It's easy. You ask if I see that you have a ring on your finger. Are you married? What's their name? You don't have to put a gender to the questions. I see, you know, you have a great love. Really, what's their name? You don't have to let them tell you, because I don't know how many, I have a lot of gay clients. I'm in that community, so that's a natural progression. And I can't tell you how many times they've said, thank goodness, finally, someone isn't telling me that I'm going to meet the woman of my dreams when, you know, I've been with the man of my dreams for 10 years. So I really recommend being extra careful about that and not judging books by their cover. Look at the hand, not at them, not what they're wearing, not because you'll be wrong. You will be wrong. You'll look at a hand and you're like, oh, you stinker, because you are not this does not match this at all. Who are you kidding? I love busting them on that. It's really fun. So try not to make those assumptions, because it'll get you in trouble. If you judge the book's cover, you're gonna turn your clients off. You're gonna lose them before you've got them. So.
Yeah, you're the one to help me with that. I mean, straight away, you said, don't assume that everybody's heterosexual. And I say partner. I say, you know, when you have your partner. I like what you're saying, though. I haven't asked what is their name. And now we have the they and the them. There's people that want to be referred to as they or them. They're neither.
Right. And believe me, that's an extra challenge. Because it's like, they want to do this. Oh, who's going? Aaron. Well, who else? Not just Aaron. They're going. Because it messes lots of people up, and including those of us who are in the community, and we trip over it, and that's okay. And you just apologize and move on. You don't make a big deal out of it. But yeah, assumptions, it can ruin the reading, you know, because they're like, wow.
Well, we want to establish rapport and trust.
Right. And you've got them doing this because already they feel like they're in a, you know, now they got to explain. So that's number 1. Number 2, and I don't know how many times you've seen this. So many people aren't ready to charge for their work. They're either just, they don't think they're good enough, they're not ready. I think what they fail to understand is people value more what they put something into. If they are paying for your advice, your expertise, they will value it more than if you were offering it for free or just out of the love of your heart. For some reason, when it's free, they don't think it is worth as much because it didn't cost anything.
Yeah.
Right. So don't make that mistake of selling yourself out. If you want them to really value what they're saying, charge them. They will appreciate it more. They will listen because they want their money's worth, right?
And they're investing themselves.
They're investing in themselves.
I like to say, and I could even say it with you too, like for your ideal client, what does your fee say to them about you?
Right.
You know, so your ideal client's like, oh, $100. What does that say? It says, wow, you know,
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And often someone will say, well, I only charge, you know, I only want to charge $25 because I'm like, because you're telling your client that's what you're worth.
Yeah. And you think about all the years of experience that you put in, all the training you've done. So yeah, absolutely. For all hand readers who are listening to this, definitely. Okay, good. That's the second tip.
Right. And I would charge more, but I also want to be accessible. And I'm in the Midwest.
Yes.
You know, $100 is a good price here. It really is. Much more than that. And I'm not going to be as accessible. And I would hate that. I would hate for someone to not be able to get a reading because it's way above their means. So yes. For the third thing, I would say, don't ever stop learning.
Yeah.
Because I find when I get away from the connection to you and some other readers, and I get away from that, I sort of get in my own little rut and what I know, and I start just doing that, and I never I don't remember to expand that. So when I hear other points of view, if I learn another thing, I just recently took a class with you, and it's like, oh man, I got to remember, never stop learning. There's always more to learn. And there's always other interpretations that would be interesting to hear, to factor that into what you know, to see if that resonates. So if you stop learning, you don't grow. You don't get even better than you were. You could be great, but you could always be better. So don't ever stop learning. Don't ever stop listening and growing, because you will be so much better at what you do. Your value goes up to the client and to the work itself. I mean, you're just going to put a better thing out there. So those would be my top 3 tips.
Awesome. That's great. Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you. Well, is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners and our fellow hand analysts or palmists?
I think that the biggest thing for me, and anyone a lot of people that are listening already do this. So they've already got the bug anyway. So I don't need to convince them how amazing this is. And yet, I think sometimes we have such a gift and such an honor to have people trust us to guide them in some way. And I think people forget what an honor it is. So I usually end the reading with something to that effect. It's like, thank you, because that's faith. They're putting their faith in our information and our expertise. And don't lose sight of how precious that is. Don't be cavalier about it, because it's really sacred. Mm-hmm. So I'll always treat it with that kind of respect. If someone in a bar says, oh, you read palms, and they throw their hand in your face, don't go there. It's much too sacred for that.
Yeah.
Right. So it deserves the respect back and forth. So just remember that. Remember what a sacred gift that is, and how amazing it is that you get to give it. It's such a good feeling to be able to help someone just clear the cobwebs. It may be something they already know. They know it in here, but they can't see the forest for the trees, and you get to help guide them through the woods. So I love that. And I hope you guys love it too.
That's fantastic. Great. Yeah, I always like to remind the students and hand readers to ask what was the most useful thing that you got in the reading. And that's always, it's amazing to hear what people say, how they benefited from it. And that's life-changing for people. And it gives people direction. And so, and it also gives us more confidence and to keep doing it, and to get over hurdles and to get over bumps in the road. And so, well, Debe, this has been so amazing. I always love connecting with you, and you're just a bright light in the world. And I'm so grateful that we met so many years ago and got to spend time together in Manhattan Beach and Orange County, and for years to come into the future. So again, your website is passionatepalmist.com, and you have
Palmist.com.
the Passionate Palmist.
This is my logo, which I actually have tattooed on my arm.
Love it. I love it.
So yes, thepassionatepalmist.com.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you very much, and have a great evening.
You as well. This was fabulous. Thank you so much for your time.